Yesterday morning, a Chinese lab released a coding model that fits on a gaming laptop and ties Claude Opus on the benchmark Anthropic invented. No Fortune 500 contract, no API waitlist, no $1,000 per month subscription. Just a 16.8 gigabyte file, an Apache 2 license, and a download button. No, it's not another Hugging Face release you'll forget about by Friday. This is Qwen 3.627b, dense, open weights trained in Hangzhou. 77.2 on SWE-bench Verified. 59.3 on Terminal Bench 2, which is exactly the same score Claude Opus 4.5 gets on the exact same test. That's not a ballpark, that's not a moral victory. That's a tie. In the next 5 minutes, I'll show you the architectural heresy that made it possible. The one benchmark where Opus still wins, and why Simon Willison says the Pelican it drew is better than Anthropic's. It's April 23rd. This is indiehacker.news, so here's the setup. For 3 years, the rule has been simple. Want flagship coding intelligence? Rent Opus, rent Codex, rent GPT, pay $25 per million tokens, and pray your context window doesn't blow up before your seed round does. And every few weeks, a Chinese lab would ship something open and close the gap by a little DeepSeek. Kimi GLM, the older Qwen models, each one gets cheaper, each one gets better, and every time Western labs shrug and say, yeah, but they can't actually do agentic work. They can't edit a real repo. Yesterday, that argument got body slammed into a table. Qwen scored 53.5 on SWE-bench Pro, 83.9 on LiveCodeBench 6. These aren't toy benchmarks. These are the exact categories closed labs used as their moat. And the whole thing fits in 20 gigs of RAM. Now, the juicy part is the architecture. For 2 years, every serious lab has been building mixture of experts. Giant model, tiny active slice, save compute, save money. The catch is that on long agentic tasks, the router constantly picks the wrong expert, the gradient smears, and the model forgets what it was doing by turn 90. Qwen looked at that trade, said no thanks, and went back to a dense transformer like it's 1999, and we're all still on dial-up. 64 layers, 48 gated DeltaNet heads for the linear attention, 24 standard gated attention heads for the heavy lifting. Every weight fires on every token. It's the architectural equivalent of unplugging your router and running a cable straight to the wall. And it works, because Terminal Bench rewards models that don't get lost. One bad expert routing call on turn 40 kills the run. Dense doesn't route. Dense just answers. While you were asleep, Simon Willison booted the thing on a Mac Studio with 128 gigs of unified memory. Launch command, one line of llama-server pointed at the Hugging Face repo. He used the unsloth 4-bit quant. Result, 25 tokens per second generation, 54 tokens per second prompt reading. Total memory chewed up about 20 gigabytes. For context, the previous Qwen flagship needed 607 gigabytes of download and 256 gigs of system RAM just to clear its throat. We went from datacenter to desk drawer in a single release cycle. Then Simon ran his signature test, the Pelican drawing an SVG of a bicycle. This thing is the LLM community's Voight-Kampff test. Most models draw a blob riding a deck of cards. Qwen drew spokes, a chain, a correctly proportioned frame. One commenter on Hacker News claimed it came out better than the Pelican Opus 4.7 made last week, which is either the funniest benchmark of 2026 or the exact moment closed model supremacy started speed running backwards. Probably both. On an RTX 5090 at 6-bit quantization, you're looking at 50 tokens per second with 28 gigs of VRAM. On an M3 Max 36 gig, even maxed out with apps running, HN users report 13 tokens per second. That's faster than most of you can read this sentence. Oh, and the native context window is 262,000 tokens, extendable to a full million via Yaren scaling. You can drop the entire React source tree into a single prompt and have room left over for your grocery list. Before you cancel your Anthropic bill, the Honest Scorecard. On SWE-bench Verified Opus 4.5 still wins 80.9 to 77.2, 3.5 points. So if you're the kind of person who picks a restaurant based on the third decimal of a Yelp score, Opus is still king of this one hill. But on AIME 2026, the high school math Olympiad that eats most models for breakfast, Qwen scores 94.1, and that's a lead. GPQA Diamond 87.8, top of the open source heap. and the launch day flex was 82 quantized variants, 82. On day 1, Q4, Q5, Q6, Q8, K medium, K large, whatever flavor your inference stack speaks, it was there before lunch. That is not a research preview, that is a product. Now, the skeptics on Hacker News immediately accused Tongyi Lab of training on Pelican examples, which is the AI equivalent of your dad saying wrestling is fake. Maybe benchmark contamination is a real thing. But nobody's arguing about this. The weights are on Hugging Face, the license is Apache 2, and you can clone it, fine-tune it, and ship it tomorrow without a single email to a single lawyer. That's not a pitch deck claim, that's a Git clone. Zoom out. The next 6 months are going to be rough for closed labs. Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google spent 2 years selling coding intelligence as a premium service. A Chinese lab just gave it away. Opus still wins the absolute frontier by a couple of benchmark points. The question is whether a couple of points is worth $25 per million output tokens when the alternative costs 0 and runs on hardware you already own. For indie builders shipping side projects and internal tools, that answer is already no. Expect every AI wrapper startup to quietly swap their default to a Qwen derivative by June. Expect Anthropic and OpenAI to respond with aggressive price cuts, dramatically better agents, or both. And expect the next Qwen release to close the last 3 points. Because if Tongyi can drop 93% of the weight and still tie Opus on terminal work, version 4 is going to be rude. That's a wrap. I'm out.